Hello, welcome. In this episode, I'll show you how to use Litematica on your Cree TV in survival mode, learn to build with Litematica, copy your constructions, and upload others' builds. Explore all of this in this episode, so let's begin. By the conclusion of this episode, I also demonstrate how to download Litematica so it functions properly in your Minecraft, so if you haven't got it yet, don't worry about it. Scroll to the end, install it, and you can return to the beginning when I explain everything from the start. If you already have Litematica, let's get started. By the way, if the tutorial helps you, please leave a sub, as I want to reach 1000 subs as quickly as possible, and I would be very grateful. Let's move on. Alright, so let's start from the beginning. The simplest and best way to check if your Litematica is working, and if you've installed it correctly in your game, is to take a stick in your hand. Currently, I'm holding a standard Minecraft stick and I'm in creative mode. We observe that something is appearing within the chat area. There are several texts and something is indicating information to us here. And this is precisely what we require. Additionally, press the M key on your keyboard and now the menu should open up. If this functions for you, it signifies that you have successfully installed Litematica on the appropriate version, along with the Malilib add-on, ensuring that everything will operate smoothly for you. Currently, with this stick in your hand, you have the ability to press the Ctrl key on your keyboard while simultaneously scrolling using the mouse, which means you scroll with the mouse wheel. You will observe that the modes are changing in the bottom left corner. We have 9 modes for this stick. They serve different purposes, and it's important to know this from the start, and we'll discuss which modes we'll be using and for what purposes in a moment. If you like these tutorials and want to support my channel, you can buy me a coffee, the link is in the description. Thank you so much. Now let's start with the basics, which is how to copy an element of our world, like one of our buildings. And at this point, if you are intrigued by the idea of pasting another person's schematic onto a server or into your game, you have the option to skip ahead to that particular section. On the movie's timeline, you will find timestamps along with corresponding sections. If any particular section captures your interest more than this one, you have the option to skip directly to it. Now, let's begin the process of duplicating our structure. I have come across this outpost, and we will initiate the process by replicating a simple hut, or more accurately, by just selecting it. I am employing a stick in the area selection mode, which is actually the first mode. I would like to remind you that you should hold down the control key on the keyboard and utilize the mouse scroll to transition between these modes. It is essential to be in the initial mode for it to function as the world selection mode. At this point, I proceed to click on this particular block using the left mouse button, and subsequently, I am able to click on this block utilizing the right mouse button. Consequently, we employ both of the mouse buttons, which results in the creation of a selection extending from the left block to the right block. As you can observe, it appears somewhat crooked, and naturally, we could initiate the building process to encompass the entire structure and simply utilize the right mouse button to modify the second selection. However, it is somewhat inconvenient, and additionally, I have unintentionally disrupted our structure. This is not a good idea. A more effective approach is to utilize the Alt key on the keyboard. If in this mode you hold down Alt on the keyboard and use the mouse scroll, you can move the selection in the direction you're looking. So now I'm scrolling the mouse wheel forward while holding Alt, and now I'm scrolling backward. And if I gaze in this particular direction, I scroll in that specific direction. As you can observe, generally speaking, we have the ability to utilize this to rotate, enlarge, or shrink our selection even when looking upwards, which is somewhat peculiar and occasionally inconvenient because we don't completely see what we're selecting. Similarly, when looking downwards, although we can see slightly more, it still might not be entirely convenient. However, we can navigate in 3D and use the Alt key along with mouse scrolling in selection mode, in this initial mode on the stick, to choose a selection. And naturally, if you wish to relocate an object, make use of the left mouse button, the right mouse button, and you can typically click around, switch, and expand items in this manner, for example. Now, duplicating this booth feels unnecessary, so we'll skip that. Instead, we'll copy the whole tower. Again, using the left mouse button, I move to the other side, click, and there it is, though it's a bit misaligned. I anticipated it would be this way, so I press Alt and broaden the selection to include the entire structure. It's important to be cautious and check upwards, downwards, to the right, and to the left to ensure the selection is captured neatly here. I'm not gonna try to make it fit exactly to the grid. It's enough for me that the entire structure is within this area to be copied. If you want it to be more precise, capturing just the structure without any air around it, you can adjust the selection more accurately. I've roughly made the selection. I think I would be satisfied with this for duplication purposes. Now I can press the M key on the keyboard to open our menu and themes. And now we can go into the Area Editor tab. We are here. And also in this tab, as you can see, we can click with the right mouse button or the left mouse button and adjust the selection if we prefer, rather than just using the mouse in the game. You can also observe that I've initiated the process to gradually elevate the lower section. Generally, if you wish to make any modifications in this area, you have the ability to do so, but the most important button here is Save Schematic. In this manner, we preserve the schematic, which encompasses everything within this selection. I proceed to click, and at the uppermost section, I have the option to select a name. Let's simply designate it as Outpost. If I duplicate something from the tool Outpost and I prefer not to have pillagers inside, which would respawn upon placing the structure, I can choose to ignore entities. This way, I only replicate the entire structure, just the blocks and not the entities, such as all the animals, mobs, and so forth. I proceed to click on Save Schematic, and it subsequently appears right here on the list. As you can observe, there are 4 entries present here. 3 of these were uploaded prior to the episode and are already on the list, but there is also the 4th entry, which is our outpost, a new structure that we have saved to our schematics. If you find the episode helpful, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, as it really helps the channel grow. Thanks a lot. Now we can focus on pasting our structure into the world, and of course we'll paste what we've copied, but we'll also paste someone else's structure, like one downloaded for example, from the internet or potentially from your acquaintances, so you are likely familiar with the procedure. We continue by clicking the Windows button and typing %appdata% in the search bar, and subsequently a folder will manifest itself. We navigate into it, the files will open, and we select the .minecraft folder, and then within this folder we choose the schematics folder. In this section, you will encounter an unoccupied area if you have not previously utilized schematics, and it is necessary to position the schematics in this location, such as one acquired from the internet. For instance, at this moment I am in the process of downloading a modest size structure from Planet Minecraft, specifically a Gothic mansion crafted by user Run6. I have just downloaded it from here, and you have the option to download from a multitude of sources, whichever is most convenient for you. In this instance, an individual has crafted a delightful structure, a cool atmospheric house, and now, after the downloading process, it is in a zip format, as we can observe here. By simply opening the zip file, I'm able to extract one of the files that possess the .litematic extension, which is the extension that enables us to work with this mod, allowing us to paste the structure or send it to someone else. This is exceptionally lightweight, as it does not possess much weight, since these are more akin to instructions for the mod rather than actual graphic files. Here I notice that the individual has prepared a version complete with interior furnishings and another one without them. I will select the version without interior furnishings, so there are slightly fewer blocks involved. I have extracted it to my desktop, and now I can easily drag it into the folder we previously opened. This is the schematic folder where either your mod or my mod accesses and reads all these schematic files. We can use them later in the game. I have another schematic here. As you can see, it has the .litematic extension, which is the newer extension officially from this mod, but there are also older ones because Schematica used to be the main mod. There are also files sometimes with the schematic extension. These are older files and we can upload them too. They will work as well, so don't worry about that. And I've downloaded one as an example and will upload it. And now a brief note, that particular folder is perfectly fine if you are utilizing the original Minecraft launcher. However, if you are employing a different launcher, such as I have here with the Prism launcher, then you will need to locate within the files, also through that %appdata%, specifically the files associated with your launcher, and delve into that schematics folder. If you're using the original launcher, this doesn't concern you. You get it with that folder. If you have a different launcher, just locate those files for the Prism launcher. Here's the pathway that enabled me to reach that destination. I simply needed to navigate into the profile instance I was operating and locate the Minecraft directory and subsequently the schematics directory once more. And here, we can actually observe all the schematics that were visible in my game. If I navigate here once more and select load schematic, because under the M key and under load schematic we have this list, we indeed observe 4 files, and these are precisely my 4 files. And generally, if you want to send your building to someone, you just need to take that file, copy it to your desktop or somewhere, and send it to someone, and that's it. This is literally the file that will be useful for transferring, and these are also the files that you download from the internet or from friends, etc. These are exactly those files. So once again, if you are using the original launcher, if you put those files into that folder, you will see them directly in the game. There is no problem with that. Alright, and now let us return to our game. And indeed, if we find ourselves here within the menu, we click on Load Schematics, we can observe our entire list, and now we have the option to choose what we want to paste. First, we'll paste this house from the internet. Of course, I'll also link it in the description if you want. I select it, click on it here, and at the bottom I click Load Schematic. Alright, I have received a green notification indicating that it has loaded successfully. I press the escape key to return, and now I click once more, because as you can observe, it is not yet present in the world. I navigate back to this menu and select the option labeled Loaded Schematic, which is the second choice available. Here, we have the schematics that have been loaded and are ready for me to work with. Now, I'm able to click on Create Placement in order to position this schematic. As you can observe, I am now able to back out by pressing the escape key. The schematic has been positioned right here. Quite literally, it is placed exactly where I was standing. And now, naturally, if we scroll utilizing the scroll key in conjunction with the mouse scroll to reach the 5th mode, then by persistently holding sticks and employing Alt along with mouse scrolling, we are able to relocate this structure here, modify its position, and of course upwards, downwards, rightwards, leftwards. The identical rules for holding Alt and scrolling with the mouse are applicable in this context. We can choose where we want to place this structure. And of course, these aren't actual blocks yet, they're like ghosts, allowing us to walk through, look at, and pass through them. This structure isn't actually standing, it's merely a holographic representation that indicates, for instance, where we desire to position blocks in order to construct it. Alright, I'll adjust it slightly more to align with the ground to achieve something like this. Here's an important note. You have color-coded indicators. For instance, the red highlighted blocks intersect with our structure, blocking our path here. So if I were to drive this into our tower, you would observe that a few additional red highlighted blocks emerge. Consequently, this generally provides significant insight into whether the structure is stable and stands well in space or not. If you determine that it is acceptable and preferable in this context, then we are able to commence the construction process. At this moment, I can identify the location for building, which means I could potentially reconstruct this entire structure. Or rather, to build it. A huge thank you to the channel supporters, whom you can now see on the screen. Thanks to you, this channel can grow. Thank you very much. If you're interested in becoming a supporter, please take a look at the button below. Shortly, we will continue with pasting this entire structure in creative mode. With a single click, the complete structure will be positioned, with the blocks visibly materializing. However, if you've ever observed on YouTube or other platforms that individuals in survival mode merely stood there while the items in their hands were scrolling automatically constructing without physically engaging, that capability is not inherently integrated into Litematica. It is a highly requested feature that it even mentions at the very top of the description that it is not inherently built in. Nevertheless, there are additional add-ons you can explore and install, and as you can observe in this GIF, the items in the hands change swiftly and it constructs sequentially. If you're interested, you have the option to install such an add-on. Just a small tip for you, and now let's proceed to how to accomplish it simply. Without any add-ons, in creative mode, we will paste everything simultaneously with just a single command. Alright, and now let's try to paste it all at once, so let's go into M, here into this menu, and go to the top right corner, the configuration menu button. It's a spot for all configurations. If something in the settings bothers you and you want it different, you can explore and rearrange things here. It is more tailored for advanced users because you must understand which functions do not align with your needs. However, we will utilize it right from the beginning as an organizer, specifically focusing on the Hotkeys tab to assign the operation of placing the entire building to a keyboard shortcut because it is not configured as standard. So I click on this magnifying glass icon here to search and I type execute operation. It locates it for me. I had previously assigned a shortcut that was ineffective because one of those keys is already utilized in Minecraft for certain shortcuts. Therefore, you need to identify keys that are not assigned to anything in Minecraft, so they are available for you to use effectively, ideally a combination of two. Generally, it will inform you that you do not have any shortcuts. You click with the left mouse button and for instance, Now I press the U key and let it remain as it is. Quite literally at the exact same time, I pressed both the U and I keys on the keyboard. Alright. And now I uncheck it. It lights up orange. There might be such a shortcut. We'll test it in a moment. I click ESC and I press U on the keyboard. We are currently in the mode where we see the hologram and we must have a stick in hand. This is very important. Remember that. And this stick must be configured to mode number 5. As you can observe, it should display paste schematic inward. And now I am able to effectively utilize my shortcut keys U and I, and we can observe that the entire structure has been pasted in completely in just a moment, so it functioned successfully. Sure, you can set the shortcut to any keys you prefer. I picked these two because they're likely the best, but the key point is that it works. Now these are actual blocks, and I can't walk through them like before. I'd have to break them normally. Certainly the entire hologram remains beneath, and we will shortly demonstrate how to deselect it so it no longer bothers you, as your structure is already erected, allowing it to be deselected. And now, in order to deselect it, we need to click on M once more, navigate into Loaded Schematics, which is the second button, and then click on Unload. Typically, the hologram vanishes and your constructed building stays intact because those were merely ordinary physical blocks. As you can see, there's simply no hologram here anymore, and we have a beautiful house. By the way, if you appreciate it, you can give a diamond to the owner on Planet Minecraft, and it's great that people create such things. You have the ability to download, play, watch, and observe the process of how they construct, and so on. And now, just to verify, I am able to click on M, load the schematic, and we will load the schematic that is highlighted in red. Earlier, as I showed you on the desktop, it has the .schematic extension, which is the older one. I select it from the list and click load schematic. We have received a notification here indicating that it is indeed an outdated file format. Generally speaking and theoretically, certain issues might potentially arise. Once again, I press the M key, then I select Loaded Schematics, and it has actually appeared here. I am able to click on Create Placement. Generally, it's quite a large structure. That's just the one I had. I'm not sure if it will affect the recording, so test. Okay, it seems to look quite alright. I might experience a bit of lag as I fly closer. As you can see, this is quite a large structure and I'm normally pasting it here. I won't be placing it as blocks anymore because I'm a bit concerned about performance. I wouldn't want any hiccups during the recording later on. Generally it works, and I could also paste it as you see a simple hologram like a dot Litematica, and you can also use those dot schematic files. There is absolutely no issue with that. Alright, I shall unload it now so it does not cause any lag here. It is perfectly fine. I shall load this house here once again, or perhaps... Alright, let us utilize our tower. I promised that we would still position what we copied earlier to uphold my word. We will set up this tower. Of course, I went into Load Schematic, selected Outpost, clicked Load Schematic. Now we go into Loaded Schematics. I did it twice, so there are two. We can unload one, and we can click Create Placement on the other to create the hologram right here. So indeed, the hologram will be pasted here. Please ensure to transition to the 5th operational mode of our control stick so as to effectively utilize the alternative key alongside the mouse scroll for navigation. I shall delicately maneuver it downward slightly in this manner, and let's assume we plan to construct it at this specific location. And I have another tip for you. This is more for those people playing in survival mode who build it manually. We can display it in layers because if the structures are more complicated, it somewhat obstructs our view, as you can see. It can be a bit annoying if we have a lot of slabs or similar things. We can't quite see what to build. It would be nice to display it layer by layer, so let's do that now. Okay, we go into M, now again into Config, which is the button in the top right corner. We proceed into the Render Layers section, which is the ultimate tab situated here. In this particular section, all below must be selected. At this juncture, we have a layer selected, and we can either increase or decrease it by utilizing the right or left mouse button, respectively. And observe what will transpire. To establish your present level without repeatedly clicking upwards, you can simply click Set here. Now, it has established our foundational level, and notice that by clicking this plus button on the mouse, each time it elevates the layer of the structure. Generally, by clicking the mouse, we can decrease it. So for instance, I will decrease it to the initial level, which signifies I only have the floor here. And now, for instance, I am able to construct the floor, return here, click to elevate one level, construct that section, then return once more, click to elevate another level, and continue in this manner until the entire tower is completed. Essentially, that is what it encompasses. If you wish to deactivate it, you can certainly return, and it will exhibit each individual layer for you. Therefore, this feature can also prove to be quite beneficial. Now, generally, if you want to use Litematica on servers, make sure to check their rules to see if those servers allow it, so there's no chance of getting banned or anything like that. Certain servers have specific rules and they may not permit this, so be sure to pay close attention to that. Another piece of advice. Generally, there's also the consideration that you can have several of these holograms, a number of these schematics inserted. You simply navigate to this location, load the schematic, and proceed to load it as you normally would. Subsequently, in the Target Schematic tab from the second one, we merely have a small number of fields. Previously, this happened to me with the same build, which didn't make sense. Now I've added two different ones, the one we copied and the one we downloaded from the internet. In general, we observe that we possess these two schematics, and if it becomes bothersome and we wish to merely disable one from our world, but not unload it just yet because it could prove useful in the future and we do not want to add it once more, we simply need to navigate to the initial tab, Schematic Placements, and just disable it there, which means it will still remain loaded in the background. We are able to swiftly enable it at any given moment, and it maintains its position, the one we established earlier, as you can observe, but we merely disabled it temporarily because, for instance, if we want to see something, check, change, etc. So generally it's a very useful place, it might come in handy for you. And generally we already know how to rotate this figure front, up, down, and that's cool, but sometimes it would be good to rotate it. We want to rotate it by 90 degrees, by 180 degrees. Sometimes it would be useful to do that, and we can't do it with our stick, our scroll. We go into M, click on the first option, Schematic Placement. Now the initial option is configuration, and we can select rotation on the right hand side, and we can observe that our figure rotates completely. It rotates in its entirety. It also slightly alters its position relative to the axis, but the most crucial aspect is that, as you can observe, the entrance was located here previously, and now it is situated over here, so it generally rotates the entire figure for us. And once more, by 180 degrees, so now the entrance ought to be there. If I recall correctly, it was at the front. And indeed it is here. We can also use the mirror, so let's perhaps return to the basic position and see how it looks. Okay, I see that there are entrances on both sides, so I didn't show it quite right, but you saw that it does rotate its sides. Maybe we should have been looking at the roof rather than the entrance. Alright, and at this point we have the option to utilize the mirror feature, so we navigate here once more, press M, and then press M again for the schematic placement configuration. Here we find the mirror option available. It essentially generates a mirrored image, which positions the structure somewhat differently, and this will undoubtedly be beneficial for you. Another oversight on my part, which I will highlight immediately. As you can observe, when I access the M menu and navigate to loaded schematics, it appears as unnamed. This is despite the fact that our structure is designated as outpost. The reason for this is that during the process of creating this schematic within the area editor, I inadvertently left these fields as unnamed. It is also worthwhile to assign it a name, such as Outpost, so that it appears aesthetically pleasing in our menu subsequently. You must designate it here, configure it, then select Save Schematic and name it Outpost once more, and only then proceed to save it. In this manner, it will be presented attractively in the loaded schematic menu later on. Here's a tip for you. There's a button. Support. Thank you. I hope the guide helped you. Now we'll move on to installing our theme. If you don't have it, and if the guide helped you, leave a like, and now we'll proceed to the installation. And of course, you have all the links in the description, so take a look there. Alright, so typically we must download the Litematica modification. We have a blog post available for you as usual, and naturally it includes various translations here. You can utilize it if you wish, but if not, you obviously have this video. We scroll downwards to the section designated for downloading links, and we proceed into Litematica and Malilip, which is a necessary library for Litematica to function properly. So, on the modification link, I open both Litematica and Malilip, and we download these two essential components. I click on the green download button, select my specific game version, this is my version, you select yours. Naturally, this guide is applicable for multiple versions, and I click on the Fabric platform, click on download, and save it to the desktop. You can download it elsewhere, just make sure you know where it's downloaded. We go to download, the same version and the same platform, which is Fabric, it's the same loader. I click download, also to my desktop, and these mods work on Fabric as you noticed earlier. We still need to install Fabric for our game. We also possess a comprehensive guide for this. Here it is, feel free to utilize it if you desire. If not, you have this. We scroll downwards as well. Here we have some excellent links for Fabric. We have the Fabric installer here. We click on download for Windows, I'm clicking on the desktop. If you are using Linux, you can simply download the universal jar and install it without any problems. Fabric requires the Fabric API. It's an additional mod that helps Fabric work with other mods. Here, naturally, we also possess a comprehensive guide. At the bottom, there is additionally a section containing links, and here we will opt for Modrinth to download the Fabric API. I adhere to the identical process here, select the most recent version of the game, and proceed to click download. Again on the desktop, and we have all the files. And now an important step: if you haven't played Minecraft 1.2, 1.8 before, or the version of Minecraft you want to install League of Legends on, meaning you've never been on that version, haven't launched the game, you need to start the game. When you just want to play on a clean version, a clean Minecraft on the version that interests you, the game will start and you can close it. It's just about creating background files. I've already done this, I've already played on 1.2, 1.8. These guides were on that version, I don't need to do it, but it's an important note for you to ensure the installer works. And now we move to the desktop. Here I have the files I downloaded. Here are the files for Schematic, here are for Fabric, and we'll start with the Fabric installer. It's in .exe. We just open it normally with a double click and the installer opens and we simply click install. Nothing could be simpler. We click and it indicates that it has been installed correctly. Then we click OK. Now we proceed into our Minecraft launcher. Here I'm demonstrating it on the original one, but generally I utilize Prism Launcher in the tutorial. But it doesn't matter, in the sense that in Prism Launcher and other launchers that have different profiles built in, you can also do it more easily directly in the launcher. If you possess the original version, you are required to utilize the installers. Typically, I have initiated the original launcher here, and we proceed to select Fabric Loader version 1.2.1.8. If you do not observe it here, it likely did not add itself. Proceed to the Installations tab and select New Installation. At this point, you have the option to choose an icon and name it Fabric version 1.2.1.8. In this particular step, you will be required to search for the Fabric Loader version 1.2.1.8 and proceed to incorporate this specific profile into your list. As you can observe, I already have it readily available here. Now, you should hover your cursor over this profile, whether it was generated automatically or manually by yourself, and then click on the folder icon. Now the files will be readily accessible for your use. From these files, you should choose the modifications directory. If it is not already present, you can easily create it yourself. Alright, we proceed to access this directory, and now we effortlessly transfer these 3 files into this directory. These files are Litematica Fabric, Malilib, which serves as the library for Litematica, and Fabric API, which functions as the library for Fabric. I load these 3 files here. They are in the mods folder. I can now close this, return to my launcher, and I can click play on the Fabric loader version 1.21.8. Whether it is the one that spontaneously created itself or the one you meticulously created, it truly does not matter. The essential point is to launch the version with Fabric, not the standard Minecraft, but the version equipped with Fabric. Alright, the game is successfully launched, and indeed in the bottom left corner we observe 1.21.8 Fabric. Fabric is operational, and now when we calmly enter our game, our Litematica will function. We enter to confirm, and we can actually press M, and then our Litematica opens such a menu, or we can take a stick in hand. I just need creative mode, give me a moment. Alright, game mode creative, we can take a stick in hand, and now such menus appear in the bottom left corner, which is what we utilized in this episode, our Litematica functions. You can utilize it with ease, employ this guide as assistance, and best of luck. If you discovered the guide to be beneficial, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment, as it truly aids us, and we will see you in the upcoming videos. You can write what movie's next in the comments, and see you